Defendant has been charged with violating the conditions of his community control sanctions. Scheduled for a probable cause hearing today. We're in open court with the defendant and his attorney, Mr. James Matthews. Mr. Matthews, what's the defendant's intention at this time?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Starkey wishes to waive both his right to a probable cause and final hearing and enter a plea of guilty to the violation.
Mr. Starkey, you have been charged with violating the conditions of your community control sanctions. Specifically, it's alleged you violated two separate rules. Rule 4 requires you to report the address at which you're actually living at. You're not to change that residency address without prior notification and approval from your probation officer. And you went to Toledo to be a resident of Racing for Recovery without informing your probation officer. That is the allegation. Second violation is Rule 9, which prohibits a probationer from leaving Lake County or your current county of residence without permission from your probation officer, and you're not to leave the state of Ohio without permission from the court. And again, you went to Toledo, Ohio without permission from your probation officer. Now, you have the right to have two hearings regarding these allegations. The first is a hearing where the state would be required to present some evidence to suggest you probably committed the violations. That's called a probable cause hearing. The next is called a final hearing on the merits, and that's a hearing where the state would be required to prove the actual merits of what they're alleging. Now, you could have either or both of these hearings, but you can also waive the hearings and plead guilty to the violations. Your attorney has indicated he believes that's what you want to do, is waive the hearings and plead guilty. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, before I can accept your waiver and plea, I need to make sure you understand the potential penalties you face if you are found to have violated your community control sanctions. If in fact that did occur, the court could extend your probation up to 5 years. I could impose more restrictive sanctions against you, or I could terminate your probation and send you to prison. If I did that, it could be anywhere from 6 to 12 months on each count. Those terms can be served ordered to be served consecutive to each other, so possibly 24 months in prison. You understand all the potential penalties you face if you are found to have violated your community control sanctions?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, having been so advised, what do you want to do at this time? Do you want to have either of these hearings, or do you want to waive the hearings and plead guilty to the violations?
I would like to plead guilty, Your Honor.
If the court will accept your pleas, find that you did violate your community control sanctions. Mr. Matthews, is there any reason not to go forward with sentencing?
No, Your Honor.
Anything you want to say on behalf of your client?
Yes, thank you. Your Honor, Mr. Starkey is asking to remain on community control. He is indicating that if he is able, he believes he may be able to get his job back at Longhorn Steakhouse, and would like to address the court as to the specifics of these violations.
Mr. Starkey, you have the right to address the court before your sentence. You can say anything you want. Is there anything you want to say at this time?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
First, I'd just like to apologize for troubling everyone here today. It all falls on my blame. I did not properly read the rules of probation. I thought it stated that I had to get permission to leave the state. I did not. I must have read it too fast when I signed it, and Craig Berry showed it to me when I was arrested. So I did violate. There's no doubt about that.
You've been on probation in Lake County multiple times before. Those rules, the same rules have been in place since I've been a prosecutor 35 years ago.
It's been a long time. I honestly, though, I thought it said I had to get permission to leave the state, and I apologize for that. As for going to Toledo, my parents live in Toledo, and that's the main reason why I wanted to go out there. The whole time I was at Lake House, I was planning to go to team recovery, and initially when I called Kim, she said that was fine, there wasn't a problem with that. And when she called back a week later, she stated that she had talked to you, and you said that I couldn't do.
Kim, you told him it was fine.
No, I did not tell him that it was fine. I said, you don't have a condition of sober living. I said, now I will say I said this. I said, I don't see where it would be a problem, but let me call the judge and talk to him first, because it wasn't a condition of his. But I very clearly called him back after I spoke with you and said the judge said absolutely not.
Go ahead, Mr. Starkey.
Okay. Yes, so she had called me back. Originally when I talked to her, she said that there wouldn't be a problem. And I guess afterwards she talked to my counselor and then called me back and said that she talked to you, and you said I couldn't do sober living in Toledo. If I wanted to do sober living, I had to do it in Lake County. And I asked her that didn't seem fair to me, and she said that I should write you a letter. So after getting off the phone with her, I called my attorney, Brad Wolf, and asked him what I could do about it. He said to call and get clarification from Kim exactly what it was that I wasn't allowed to do. So I called and I left Kim a message saying that I wanted clarification, asking her if you were saying I couldn't leave the county or temporarily leave the county. I told her that my parents live in Toledo, and I was thinking maybe possibly just moving in with them.
Well, it had nothing to do with your girlfriend.
Nothing to do with my girlfriend.
That's bullshit.
I swear.
You wanted to go there last time we were here because that's where your girlfriend was getting treatment. You wanted to go wherever she was.
I was the one who wanted us to go to Team Recovery because my parents live in Toledo,
All right.
Your Honor. I left a message and said I was thinking about maybe just moving in with my parents. At the time, I was considering that option. So after about 2 days, I hadn't received a call back from her, so I called her again. And when I asked him for clarification about what it was that I wasn't allowed to do, I was asked her, are you saying I can't leave the county or temporarily leave the county? Because that's what my attorney asked me to ask. Kim stated that you said I can't go to the same facility as my girlfriend. And so I took it as I could possibly go to a different facility than she was at. And I didn't plan on
How are you
going.
going to report to your probation officer?
I drive. It's like I came down here. I never planned on missing a probation appointment. So when I got out I worked all weekend at Longhorn. On Monday, I drove up and met my parents and my girlfriend for lunch. My parents had found the Racing for Recovery, which is about 5-10 minutes down the road from them, and it was about 30 minutes from the facility where my girl's at. And they did intakes on Monday. So after we had lunch, I drove there to see if they accepted my insurance and if I could get into this facility, it was like a PHP level type care. I was in class all day. They accepted me. The next day when I talked to the case manager, I told him I was on probation. I still had to report every week, and he said that was fine. And if I ever needed help getting to probation, they would drive me. And he was going to reach out to Kim, and I told him I had to go the next day for probation meeting. Afterwards, I guess he had talked to Kim. I tried to call her when I got out of group, but I didn't get out of group till 5:30. So she was already out of the office. I called her first thing in the morning when I was getting ready to drive back up here for my meeting. And she told me that I wasn't allowed. I apologized to Kim. I said, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. That's not a problem. I can come back right now. Told her how I could still live with my aunts. Apologized. I hadn't even brought really anything up there with me yet. Everything was still at my aunt's. So I came back. I apologized. When I got arrested, I asked Craig Berry to show me the rules. I reread the rules. I did sign it, and I did leave the county without permission, and I am sorry about that. I was only trying to get out of Lake County because I feel like for my recoveries, for my best interest in my recovery is to get away from the people and places that I used at here in Lake County. And I thought being around my parents who are not, they don't have a problem with drugs or alcohol, and I have a big family support up in Toledo area, which is why I wanted to go up there, Your Honor. I was never trying to manipulate or play the system. I was trying to do what I thought was in the best interest for myself at the time, and I thought I was doing it within the rules of probation. I realize now that I was not, and I'm very sorry about that. If you do see fit to let me continue probation, I do not have a problem staying in Lake County. I have a good support system out here with the people I've met in the rooms and my aunt and cousins who I stay with. I had a job at Longhorn. It's only been a week since I've been locked up. I think they would be willing to keep me hired when I got out and called them. I was planning to do aftercare at Signature Health originally, was what I had signed up for when I was at Lake House, so I would still be receiving treatment. I just apologize sincerely. I did not try to play or manipulate. I really was just trying to do what I thought was best interest for myself, Your Honor, and I'm sorry.
Had you registered in Lucas County, the Sheriff's Department, when you went there?
I was planning on it. I never got around to it. I mean, I only spent one day there, basically.
Anything else you want to say?
I just, again, apologize, and I know it's my second violation, but, Your Honor, I am probationable. I don't plan on getting high. I don't plan on breaking any laws. I'm trying to do the right thing, Your Honor. And I apologize for Kim for the misunderstanding. I was not trying to, manipulate it or anything. I was just trying to do what I thought was best for my recovery, and I did what I thought was best. I didn't realize I needed permission. All I really have to say, Your Honor. I'm sorry again.
Your Honor, can I say one thing?
Please.
So even while Nathan was still at the lake house, we had the conversation that he was not allowed to go to Toledo, and that if you wanted to do sober living, you needed to do it here in Lake County. So that was a conversation prior to him even leaving Lake House. Now, the first conversation that we had where he did ask me about going to Toledo, that was prior to the last conversation that after I spoke with you. I said, well, you're not supposed to do sober living. I said, so I don't see if it would be a problem. I said, but let me call the judge. I said, let me talk to Judge Collada. After I spoke with you and you said, nope, he has to stay in Lake County, I immediately called back to Lake House and told him that you said no Toledo. If he wanted to do sober living, it needed to be in Lake County. So that was clear. I just want to let you know.
Okay, appreciate that.
Your Honor, that was why I called back for clarification, though, after that, because I didn't understand.
What's not to understand?
What if I
No,
wasn't-
you can't go to Toledo. If you're going to do sober living, it has to be in Lake County.
Was what I called back to ask, or see if she was saying. I asked her, were you saying I can't leave the county or temporarily leave the county because I want to know what if I don't do sober living? And she said that the judge just said I can't go to the same facility as my girlfriend.
This court has considered the pre-sentence report and investigation that was originally prepared, consider the facts and circumstances of the underlying offense, the nature of the offense. I've considered everything that's been said here today. I've considered the defendant's performance on probation. All this is considered in light of the purposes and principles of felony sentencing set forth in 292911 of the revised code. For the factors in 292912, I'm going to incorporate all the findings I made at the time of the original sentencing hearing concerning the seriousness factors and the recidivism factors, with the additional finding today that the defendant has once again failed to comply with the previously imposed sanctions ordered by this court. The defendant got a big break to begin with in this case at the time of his original sentencing. He had just been released from prison not too much before he decided to sell drugs. He had two separate transactions which he was convicted of. Despite that, not only did I give him probation, but I gave him work release so he wouldn't lose his job. And then after that was over with, he lost his job. Got violated. Should have been an easy decision to send him to prison at that point. I didn't do that. I gave him another chance. And he can say he's not being manipulative. That's clearly what's going on here. He wants to dictate how this is all going to work, what he's going to do. And that's not the way this works. He's been on probation multiple times before in the past. It's been the same rules for all these times. But despite that, he's got multiple probation violations. It's not, he says he's probationable. he's demonstrated he's not probationable, not just in this case, but all the prior cases as well. Prison is consistent with the purposes and principles of sentencing, and court finds the defendant is no longer amenable to available community control sanctions. Therefore, it will be the sentence of this court that on counts 1 and 2, defendants serve a term in prison on each count of 8 months. They should be served consecutive to each other. He's got 156 days of credit. Need to advise you upon your release from prison. You may be placed on post-release control for up to 2 years. If you are and you violate any of those conditions, the parole authority can return you to prison as punishment for violating the rules for another 8 months, the maximum being 50% of the term I just imposed. Any additional prison term imposed for violating post-release control is being imposed as a part of the sentence at this time. Court disapproves the defendant's placement in a program of shock incarceration, intensive prison program, or transfer to transitional control. Court further finds consecutive service is necessary to protect the public from future crime and to punish the offender. It's not disproportionate to the seriousness of his conduct and to the danger he poses to the public, and his history of criminal conduct demonstrates consecutive sentences are necessary to protect the public from future crime by the offender. Mr. Matthews, is there anything else for the record?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
All rise.